we're going to get into the whole idea of term limits in the Supreme Court because we have to have that conversation. Term limits on the Supreme Court is back in the news. You know that President Biden appointed back in 2021 a commission to study this whole idea. And the thing that made me interested about this even more deep is that I went back to the Federalist Papers and I wanted to see what Alexander Hamilton had to say about this whole idea that these federal courts and the Supreme Court. And Hamilton remarked that the court should be justly regarded as an indispensable ingredient in its constitution and in a great measure a citadel of public justice and public security. Now he also predicted that the courts would be this. He said the courts would be the least dangerous branch of the federal government because they have neither soldiers nor money to enforce their decrees. Now, I knew you were gonna laugh at that, right? And so it's interesting when we look at the 106 justices that have been appointed since 1789. 51 of them have died in office, in office. So that's about half of them. And so the idea is that maybe we should start looking at this conflict because there's been an argument saying that the Supreme Court has been too politicized. But then we could argue the issue when Merrick Garland was trying to be appointed underneath Obama, they made it political. Or when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, they made it political and stuff with Amy Coney Barrett. So to say that the court is not political is ridiculous. It's a ridiculous argument from day one. So the idea of term limit seems to make sense, but now we have to figure out which one is a proper term limit. How many presidents should a sitting Supreme Court justice serve? Is it 3 presidents, 12 years? Is it 18 years? 18 years seem to be the number that most people agree upon. But the bigger question is, should there be term limits? And that's open to anyone that wants to start.
Three. There should be, in other words, 3 presidential terms to me. That way it guarantees that they'd have to serve under multiple presidents one way or another, because it would have to be 3 terms versus 2. So, but then 3 stops it from being a dynasty where they could then kind of partner with people for power. And so, but all this really, I mean, it's kind of an interesting discussion, because if we're going to still give them power to make the laws that stick, the laws are the things that have been the bludgeon against everybody. Mm-hmm. It's the laws, it's the laws that cause the harm. It's the laws that let harm go unpunished. It's the law that, if it was legal to beat us to death. It was legal, it was legal for all these things. That was just, it was part of the law. So then, and that's, I think, the combination of police and on one side and the Supreme Court on the other seem to be 2 intractable components of society that seem to have undue power in our society, but not the same kind of oversight. They both kind of function under they do what they want, and then there's rulings that come around that may touch them, but things, we're protesting the same things about both institutions that we were 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So so obviously whatever the blue ribbon panels and all the stuff, and just think of how many years and years of lies we've been told. Now, maybe they weren't lies, and maybe it was just the idea that in all these cases, literally they tried as hard as they could, and this is the best that we've gotten. So then we have a Supreme Court that, even out of its own mouth, it says, it's not really following legal. It's I follow my gut. Like, when somebody says I follow my gut, I'm like, get away from me. Get away from me. I need evidence. Like that could have been indigestion or gas. I need it to come from here, not here. Well,
look,
yeah,
you had
so
Clarence
that's
Thomas
where I
sitting
feel.
on the Supreme Court that took him 10 years to ask another question. He asked the question in 2006, and he didn't ask another question of anybody presenting the case to 2016. You could have sat a parrot on the Supreme Court, and they would have talked more than he did.
And you didn't? Didn't we? Didn't we? And like, I mean, isn't that supposed to be representation? Similar faces in high places and all that. We got we got him and we got Barrett. So like, that's a woman and a black person. Like, that's ovaries and melanin. You can't go wrong with that. Oh wait, you can?
Yeah. Well, so Terrence, what are your thoughts on this?
I think that I don't know what I think. I think that the original concept of having justices have indeterminate terms was to remove them from the kind of polarization that we seem to have, that we in fact have. To remove them, I corrected myself, it is definitely politicized. So I don't want people to think that I'm not clear on that. Absolutely, it's politicized. But that was the purpose of the Supreme Court's lifetime appointments so that they can rule on what was correct and not was necessarily politically correct for their party appointees. It has failed. It has failed miserably. It has failed in ways that affect the majority of people's lives, the citizenry. And so I think that because it has been so broken recently, that now it is legitimate to review whether or not it should continue to be this way. And then you get to the point, well, okay, if you have term limits, when does that start? The people who are on the bench now, who took the bench under the lifetime appointment, do they stay for their lifetime? Do you start counting the people who've been there longer than Darrell's 3 terms and say, okay, buddy, you're out? Do you replace them under what prevailing administration? Certainly, if we did that and we wanted to replace them now, there would be pushback from one side. If you wanted to replace them when the other side has the Senate, the House, majority, really the Senate, then there'd be pushback there. So the mechanism that would impose these limits is going to be fought over long after I'm gone. You know what I mean? Because there is a great deal at stake. But I think that not only, we talked about police showing their hand and that they cannot be given the benefit of the doubt to do what's just and right all the time. I think that the court, this is the highest court in the land, has shown its hand to show that it cannot be trusted to do what's just and right all of the time. Mm-hmm. And so this is revelatory. And understand what we're talking about. The police are the executive branch of government. The court is the judicial branch, and we know the legislative branch is jacked up. We're laughing, but understand that these are the 3 pillars of the republic.
Right.
These are the 3 pillars of the republic, and every one of those pillars have significant structural cracks in it. Significant.
Oh, they're critical. They're fracture critical.
And so
fracture critical.
So can the republic stand?